Hello and welcome to Talk Truth. My name is Corey Huntsberger. I've got my father, Alan Huntsberger, in the studio. And Dad, we're going to start off with our foundational verse because it matters. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord. For he laid its foundation on the seas and established it on the rivers. Psalm 24, 1 and 2. We use this verse every single program to bring some clarity, everybody, that the earth and everything in it, that means the people, the animals, the creation that surrounds us, belongs to the Lord because he's the master creator of it all. Right, Dad?
Absolutely. I mean, he told us in his word that he created us and he planned our lives before we even began to breathe. And he understands the end from the beginning. And that's the beautiful thing. I mean, where people get confused is that God created choice, and he gave people a choice to either follow him and obey him and worship him or not. And depending on what you choose is the consequences that you will live under. And so obviously he's wanting us to choose him because that's will be the most successful.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited about our guest. This is her first time on. Her name is Sam Sorbo. She's the wife of Hercules star Kevin Sorbo. She's a mom of 3, so you know she's busy. She has a mission to arm parents and families with the right tools for a successful homeschool because she is the author of Parents' Guide to Homeschool, Making Education Easy and Fun. We're going to welcome her to the show. Sam, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. I love the way you open the show. Well done.
Well, thank you.
Is Sam an abbreviation of Samantha?
It's an abbreviation of Sandra.
Oh, Sandra. Okay.
But it's my nickname. I've had it for a long time.
Why don't you just give us a little bit about who you are? Because I also know you're an actress. Is that not correct? Go ahead. Just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I'll tell you that I went to school for biomedical engineering, and I was working on an ulcer because I was trained in school to worship money. That is the training in most modern schools today, is that success is defined by how much money you make. And so I was working on an ulcer, and I took some time off, and I started modeling and realized that I could pursue acting, which was my true passion, and get a lot of money. Or I could stay in school, go into debt, and do medicine, which was also a passion, but not as much of a passion as everything else. And so I chose to pursue a career in acting. And then that's eventually how I met my husband.
And we've also met your son. He's been on the show as well. He's brilliant as well. And now I'm just learning he's obviously a product of homeschooling. Is that correct? You've homeschooled all your kids?
I did. And he's not even my favorite.
I'm going to make sure he sees this. Okay, so homeschooling is near and dear to our hearts. Alan, go ahead. I'm going to let Alan give a little taste of why that is. He's had his finger in it for a while, right, Dad? And Christian schools, I guess.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the problem is that our public schools are godless. And anything that is godless, the definition of godless is wicked. Now, we don't like to call our schools wicked. So we try to...
I will.
Okay. So we try to put, some kind of a good facing on the schools. But bottom line, they're godless. And Psalms 1, basically says, don't put yourself under the teaching of those that do not know God. And it's very clear. And we need to make sure that God is key in every subject that we teach, that we're to love the Lord our God. First of all, parents are to love the Lord their God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then they are to teach that to their children. And they're to teach that to their children in every aspect of life, not only at home, not only on Sundays, but when you get up in the morning, when you walk around in the day, when you lay down at night, you teach them how to love the Lord their God. And so when you think of regular school, those kids are gone from mom and dad for 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Mom and dad get them, after school, and sometimes not even then, because they got so much homework that they have to go to their room and fix all their homework. And so really parents have lost the whole aspect of parenting. And that's why homeschooling and getting kids into Christian education is paramount. It's our duty, it's our responsibility.
Can you tell us why you decided homeschool? How did you get there? Especially when you grew up, regular education. Am I correct? You
Yes.
weren't homeschooled.
Yeah. So part of the reason I started with that little story is to impress upon people that what your children are learning in school is anti-God. It's not just without God, it is actually anti-God. To train a child to think that his sole purpose in life is money is child abuse. Children ought to be taught that they have a purpose, that their purpose was given to them by their creator, and that they have a higher calling because of God above. And they are not taught that in schools. So I see school as child abuse. Now, when I talk about school, I'm talking about our government schools. Unfortunately, our Christian schools have decided to fashion themselves out of after our government schools, which is unfortunate. Because they still separate the child from the family, which I also view as child abuse. I don't think children should be separated from their parents. And so what I advocate is a system of home learning or home education whereby the parents are the primary instructors for their children. I do not even, at this point, I think that it's a fallacy to chase academics. I think that we've already proven with the founding of the nation by these 56 signers of our Declaration of Independence and our other documents, who were all home educated. None of them had gone to school. And they devised the greatest growth and prosperity, the greatest engine that the world has ever seen. And it's not because they were just singular geniuses out of that one generation. It's because they were free. And they were free in God's purpose. They were Christians. They understood their purpose on the earth was to create a better society for all. They gave of themselves down to their last dollars and down to their last ounce of strength in many cases. And we ought to be styling ourselves after them because they had it figured out. And it wasn't until the late 1800s that we started schooling children. And then pretty soon, the school actually is intended to put a cap on the child so that the child never asks any questions, stops learning, stops thinking, and basically never grows up. And so what we see now today are young people graduating college not knowing how to be an adult. We even have a new word for it. It's called adulting because it is so foreign to them. So my message to parents of young children is keep your children home, teach them to be just like you. They want to be like you. That is the paradigm that God instilled. It's the family paradigm. You are to them, without meaning to sound blasphemous, you as the parent are God to your child when he's young. And as he gets older, he transfers that loyalty to the God in heaven because that is the design that God instilled in us. And what we do with schools is we derail the family. Look at the family today. Look at where fathers are today. We've completely derailed that fabric of our culture, and we're reaping the rewards. We have rampant teenage depression, anxiety. Our children are just falling away. They're being absolutely decimated. And I put the blame at the feet of the schools by and large.
Can you help
Amen.
me? By the way, you said it way better than Alan said it. Thanks, Dad. Sorry,
Yeah,
buddy, but I've heard you
amen.
say it a million times. I like the way you say it. And
Amen.
can
Well, I've
we
been-
just walk through the complications though? And I know you just made all the questions seem really pathetic, but they're real, right? Time, money, curriculum. My child doesn't like, social. They like to be social. They don't. All these. There's this massive, cloud of questions and issues and problems for people to even get started. Can we just talk a little bit about those? And I know you do a really great job of shooting some of those down and encouraging people to go for it.
I'll shoot them all down.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll start with the idea that people have questions, that they're asking about something that they know nothing about. Because when you turn the question around and say, okay, so you say you can't homeschool, what do you mean? They're like, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what homeschooling is. Oh, but you already know that you can't, right? You already know that it's too expensive. You already know that you don't have the time, but you have no idea what you're talking about, right? And so we've been raised in our schools to think that we know stuff that we don't know, and then to make assumptions and ask questions that are absurd on their faces. What about socialization? That's another one. Nobody has an actual definition of that term, right? Well, kids make friends. It's also bullying. Do you mean bullying? Because that happens. Like, but people don't think about everything. They just have this chaos that's in their heads because they don't know. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to tell you what homeschool should be, what home education should be, and it's not school. And so when you start with that mindset, you go, well, then what is it? It's parenting. It's that simple. And what happens is so children have an engine inside them that's called curiosity. It's the engine that God endowed in the child. At their creation, at their birth, they're curious. And they're learning a mile a minute. They're learning and learning, and they're asking questions, right? The terrible twos and the why, what for, how come, how many, when, who said, why is that, And so what happens is they go to school and they're taught to sit down and be quiet. And they're taught not to ask questions. And so that kills their engine for learning. And then learning becomes more difficult because you're trying to teach them stuff they don't want to learn. And when you do that, you stifle the curiosity of the child. If the child is interested in the book that the child has and the teacher says, okay, put the book down now, it's time to do math, that's abuse. The child should be allowed to look at that book, assuming that it's a decent book, which there's no guarantee in our schools anymore, but assuming that it's a good book, you want to allow your child the time to pursue that endeavor until he's exhausted from it. And then he can start pursuing something else. But we have this paradigm that we've inherited from our schools of subjects. Well, you got to give them math, and you got to give them English, and you got to give them grammar, and you got to give them whatever, social studies, which is a completely made up thing that doesn't actually exist, to replace history because they wanted to distance us from our history, because if you can separate the child from the history, then you have truly a lost soul. The reason that our Bible is the best history book that we have, it's actually the best history textbook that we have, it's the best sourced history book that we have for that era, is because God is a storyteller. And because God is a storyteller, we have to know intrinsically we are story hearers. We are people who desire stories. We know this because of Hollywood, but we don't know it because we weren't taught history. And we should have been taught history. And that's how you know that the schools have gone completely off the tracks. So what happens is when you bring the child home and you just start parenting the child and you start offering the child things that might interest him, and he becomes interested in those things because he still has that engine of curiosity, he will start learning beyond your wildest dreams. He will start doing beyond your wildest dreams. But we have no faith in our children because we all went to school and we were taught children don't want to learn. Children aren't that interested in things because we were disinterested, because they did that to us. And so I want parents to understand first of all, home educating is not nearly as hard as you think it is, because your child will want to learn, assuming that you start early enough. The parents that decide now, okay, my child's in 6th grade, things are really going off the rails. I don't know what they're teaching him, but I don't like it. I'll just bring him home. You need to detox from a system that has trained that child not to aspire, not to think, not to try. Why not try? Because failure's bad in school. You see, the school is filled with lies. And those lies are what shackle us to the school. That's the crazy thing, is the reason that parents say, oh, I don't know, I can't do it, is because they've been taught in school that they don't know anything, that they can only know the things that they've been taught and that they got an A in, a gold star, and everything else you are useless at. That's the message of the schooling. And that's why I say schools are child abuse at this point. I can't get away from it. I wish I could. I wish I could make some argument for why schools are good. You know what the argument now is? School lunch program. Those children won't eat. I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about education. The argument, oh, socialization. I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about education. You're actually trying to make the case that children should go into an institution to be socialized? For what? How is that the primary concern? Since when is that the primary concern? You know, I have 3 children. You've met my son. My oldest is an extrovert. You probably picked up on that because he's extremely loquacious. He knows people everywhere. He has 2 million followers on TikTok before we knew that what TikTok was, right? I mean, this kid is out there. He's in it to win it. He knows everybody. He's never met a stranger. My other 2 children are introverts. And my third is such an introvert that she maintains that if I had sent her to school, she'd be cutting and harming herself because she could not possibly take 30 other kids all day long, every day, like that. That's child abuse. Your child might not be suited for that environment. And maybe that's the reason that he's not learning as well as you would hope that he would learn. We have no idea what we do to children in school. We simply assume that because school exists, it must be for the betterment of society. That's the lie that they told us. And that children should just adapt. And if they can't adapt, well, that's on them. And I'm telling you, children are unique. They are uniquely created by a God who loves them. Don't do that to them and make them feel like somehow there's something wrong with them. You see the whole transgender movement? That's because children are being taught there's something wrong with them. And that's wrong. There's something wrong with that system. How dare they?
Don't you think the problem
Wow.
also kind of really starts with parents? You know, I
No.
remember, you don't?
Next question.
Well,
I say no
think,
because I don't
think,
want to blame the parents.
well, I'm not trying to blame the parents. I'm just saying that the parents don't know who they are. And they have been so degraded into being that you aren't qualified to teach a child. You don't know what you're doing in teaching a child. You
Yeah, but
don't
who
have
did
the
that?
time in
Right.
teaching the child. I mean, so
You're right.
I think
You're right.
it starts with mom and dad before they even have the child, before they even
It
have the
starts,
baby, to start thinking about how are we going to raise our children? What are we going to do? How are we going to discipline our children? What are we going to teach our children? I mean,
okay.
you know,
I'm,
I think that we look at children as, oh, we're pregnant. Now what? You know, I mean, they haven't
They
thought
haven't gone
of
through
it.
the questions. They didn't do premarital counseling or something to that effect.
okay.
Totally.
But
You know?
let's look
Yeah.
at that for a moment because
Okay.
they were disenfranchised by their own schooling and their own
Totally.
parenting. And so what I say is, you know, we live in a largely unparented society. We have no idea how to parent anymore because we weren't parented, because our parents weren't parented, right? We've got generation upon generation of schooled individuals, and we've only gotten more stupid. I want to say dumber, but it's actually worse than that. Like we're so stupid today. The reading level today is like a
Right.
3rd grade reading level from 100 years ago. That's how
Right.
stupid they have made us. And it's them. They have made us that way. The system. So the only way to figure it out is to escape the system. Pull your kids out of the system and just figure it out as you go. And you know what? I believe in a God who cares, and God will get it figured out for you. He will help you with this because he loves his little children. And as long as you are stepping forward to protect them, which is what you should be doing, to protect them from what's happening in our schools. I don't know in Canada if you've heard, you know, Maryland was arguing in front of the Supreme Court for the right to not allow parents to take their children out of LGBTQ and trans training. I mean, seriously, no, we have to talk to children about sex. We have to talk to those kindergartners about lubrication. Absolutely. And the parents think that they had a big win because the Supreme Court said, well, they can opt out if they have sincerely held religious beliefs. I mean, that's so problematic right there the idea that we've now codified that LGBTQ training has some relevance in education is so absurd to me for young people. I mean, please. So yeah, you're right. The parents don't know. What's great is God is good, man. And if you figure out that the people in schools want to have sex with your children, and that's maybe a no-no, take your kids out and then get the rest of it figured out. And like I said, the engine of learning is curiosity. Feed and stoke your child's curiosity, and they will learn beyond your wildest dreams because you don't know crap, right? Because you went to school. Look, I was that. I still am to a certain degree. My kids are so much smarter than me. I've done this and I figured out. But they are. But they are. My children give me advice. And I'm frankly, like, I'm no slouch. I mean, I did go to college, but their thoughts are greater than my thoughts because my thoughts have been limited by my own schooling. We have been disabled by our schools. So I just heard a story. How do you train a flea? You put them in a petri dish, and the petri dish is shallow enough that the fleas can jump out. But if you put a lid on the petri dish, the fleas jump and they hit their heads. And eventually they figure out that just jumping, they hit their heads, they stop jumping. Then you can take the lid off, they will never leave the petri dish. Same thing with elephants. You can train an elephant when it's young, you can train it with a rope. And as it grows, it doesn't understand that it's stronger than the rope. And then you can actually tie it with a piece of string and it won't go anywhere. And this is what our schooling has done to us. It has tethered us. It has enslaved us. And so now we feel beholden to it. And by the way, we were taught to love our schools, right? And so we don't want to criticize our schools. You said it yourself. We don't want to. I will, because I understand that that was something that was imposed on me. And I have a lot of criticisms for our schools now because I've understood what they did to us. They have impaired us and they have destroyed our society, especially with, and not entirely, but especially with the anti-Christian element that's in our schools. But even before then, they were training us. They were training us for jobs. They were not training us to be entrepreneurs. This nation was founded by entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs grow the economy. And these schools have limited our economy now.
Well, I just have to say you're amazing as a spokesperson for this. I mean, you are the most passionate for homeschooling I have ever heard in my life. So I'm so grateful for that. And I love what you're saying. We had my daughter jump out of the school system, I think in 6th grade, and it didn't work. And you explained why. We didn't do the detox. She cried every single day for like the full school year. She was absolutely miserable. And I love that you gave me the reason why. I mean, we have to detox her, because of what she's used to. We've got 2 minutes left. You wrote this book, Parents Guide to Homeschool, Making Education Easy and Fun. Can you give me a little bit about what's inside the book? What can people expect when they buy it and they read it?
Yeah. So what I pray for is for families to come together because we haven't been parented, we don't know what it's like to have that relationship. I mean, you obviously are very blessed because you have a great relationship with your dad and you do this, you work together. This is God's design, is for the family to be together. And we've been robbed of that to a large degree in our culture. And so I wrote this book to dispel some of the myths, the lies, some of which I talked about here, that exist in our schools, to set parents free so that they can pursue the education of their children themselves. That's what the book does. It sets you free. The idea is you go through the book. It is a kind of a workbook. And it makes you think about, okay, so what am I about? What am I trying to do here? And by the end of the book, you should feel a lot freer to dump the school, dump it, and move about in your own way with your kids and forge a relationship of a lifetime with those children that is greater than anything that you ever dreamed of. That is my prayer for families.
Wow.
Amen.
Where can we get the book?
go to sorbostudios.com and sign up for our newsletter also, because I have a lot of fun with that. And that's how we stay in touch with people. It's free. Just sign up. And yeah, all the books are there, including Braden's books and my husband's books and all that. So
Well,
that's how
Sam,
we stay in touch with people. Also, if you are a homeschooling family, we are doing a trip to DC to look at history and see DC and just get together as homeschoolers to hang out together. But even if you go to school, you're welcome. It's just going to be during school time that we're going.
well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Hopefully, we can have you back. I want to hear what people's questions are after this episode runs, because I know this is on people's hearts. They know the truth. They know what the school system is doing to their children. They've seen the effects, and what Al and I have said before, when parents let their kids do the transgender surgery, those kids end up hating the parent. The same thing with the school system. When you put your kid through the school system and even the college and university system, they end up hating the parent. And you have this result of a horrific, you don't even know who your child is anymore. But when you add up all the hours that you are handing them over to the institution,
16,000.
then a light bulb starts to go on going, oh, maybe I made a mistake. So hopefully this program will get people to pause and think about it, get your book, read about it, and start taking some action. Thank you so much for being on the show. We really are so grateful for you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you for having me. God bless.
Well, that was wild. I've never heard someone more passionate, besides you, Dad. I know you're super passionate about the conversation, than Sam. I mean, wow. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's refreshing to see somebody like that so on fire, and especially with the community that she basically lives in, which is Hollywood,
Right.
kind of a thing. And it's exciting to see. And I agree with her 100%.
If you'd like to help support our mission and keep this kind of conversation and truth on the air, we are viewer supported. We don't take government funds or lobbyists or special interest groups. It's only because of your generosity. You can go to our website, gotalktruth.com, click on donate. You can give digitally that way. If you'd like to do it through the mail, you can. If you're in the U.S., you can make your check payable to Talk Truth Ministries and send it to 4904 South Power Road, Suite 103-152, Mesa, Arizona, 85212. If you're in Canada, you can make your check payable to Heritage Christian Ministries Association and send it to 246 Stewart Green Southwest, Suite 3260, Calgary, Alberta, T3H 3C8. And if you'd like prayer, you can call our toll-free numbers anytime and receive prayer. All right, Dad, we're out of time. We'll see you guys later.
Love you.